In the stark, cold silence of a courtroom, one officer's casual assumption would ignite a storm he never saw coming. A black woman walks in, confident, yet unnoticed by the room. But when a racist cop, armed with nothing but prejudice, tries to belittle her, he has no idea he's just crossed paths with the last person he should have. The truth he's about to face will leave him speechless. His assumptions are about to be shattered, and justice will take a turn he never expected. The courtroom hums with the usual noise, lawyers whispering, the faint scratch of pens on paper, and the slow shuffle of feet across cold tile. The trial is about to begin, and the tension in the air is thick, like the calm before a storm. Everyone is waiting for the judge, the defendant, and the lawyers to take their places, preparing for what's expected to be a high-profile case. The kind that could make or break careers, the kind that draws a crowd, filling every available seat. But then she walks in, a black woman, her steps steady, her posture straight but unassuming. She's dressed simply, her dark suit blending in with the sea of professional attire that fills the room. Her presence barely causes a ripple, and no one looks twice as she makes her way to the back, slipping into an empty chair in the gallery. She's just another face in the crowd, unnoticed, except by one, the cop. He's seated near the front, his uniform as stiff and proud as his attitude. His eyes follow her movement, scanning her as if he's decided in an instant what kind of person she must be. A bystander, a witness, maybe a defendant, certainly not someone who belongs in the center of the action. He mutters something under his breath, barely audible, but laced with enough venom to make anyone within earshot pause. Another one of them, he sneers, his voice dripping with disdain. Probably just here for the show. He's sure of himself, of his assumptions. Why wouldn't he be? He's spent years patrolling the streets, enforcing rules, passing judgment on people like her, people who didn't fit into his narrow view of the world, people like her, who didn't belong in places like this. He doesn't even look at her directly, he doesn't need to. In his mind he's already dismissed her. She's just another name in the crowd, but he has no idea, not a clue. She sits quietly, her gaze unwavering, the weight of the courtroom's attention slowly moving towards the front, where the judge enters and the trial begins. The cop's words fall silent in the background, his small dismissive comment still hanging in the air, completely unnoticed by everyone but her. It's almost comical, the way he's so sure of his superiority, the way he doesn't realize the storm that's about to hit him. She isn't a bystander, she isn't a defendant, and she isn't someone he can ignore or belittle. She's the prosecutor, and this trial, whether he knows it or not, is about to turn his world upside down. The courtroom settles into an uneasy silence as the judge takes his seat, and the trial officially begins. The buzz of conversations dies down, replaced by the sound of shuffling papers, the click of heels on the floor, and the subtle creak of chairs being adjusted. The tension is palpable, but it's nothing compared to the storm brewing on the other side of the room. At the back, the cop sits with his arms crossed, his gaze still flicking over the room. His eyes land on her again, still clueless. He doesn't know who she is, and it doesn't matter to him. In his mind, she's just another one of those people, a face that doesn't belong in a place like this. He assumes she's one of the witnesses, maybe a friend of the defendant, someone who won't have much of an impact, someone who's already been labeled by her appearance. He leans over to the officer sitting next to him, his voice low enough for only a few to hear. Probably just another one of those street people, he mutters, his tone dripping with disgust. Bet she's here to tell her sob story, about how bad her life is. Typical. The words hang in the air, careless, cutting into the calm of the room. His judgment comes easily, like he's used to making these assumptions without a second thought. She doesn't belong here, in his world. She doesn't even belong in the same room as him. The cop lets out a low chuckle, as if the idea of her being anything more than what he's imagined is laughable. His eyes narrow, scanning her from the back of her head to the soles of her shoes, cataloguing every detail, as if it somehow gives him permission to define her. He's certain he has her figured out, and he's proud of it. He's comfortable in his arrogance, allowing it to feed his bias. But what he doesn't know, what he can't possibly understand, is that this woman, the one he's so eager to dismiss, has been watching him, listening to every word he's muttered under his breath. And in his ignorance, in his quick judgment, he's only built the foundation for a confrontation that will shatter everything he thinks he knows. As the trial progresses, he makes no effort to hide his attitude. His whispers continue, louder now, casting her into the role he's assigned her, someone beneath him, someone unimportant. He rolls his eyes as she stands, and he even sneers when she speaks with the witness, his voice too loud, his disrespect too obvious. He's already decided what she is, what her place is in the world, and it doesn't matter that he's wrong. But the truth is, he's just set the stage for a reckoning, and it's only a matter of time before he realizes that his assumptions were the very thing that would bring him to his knees. The air in the courtroom is charged. Every eye on the judge as the case begins to take shape. The prosecutor, her presence unassuming yet firm, rises from her seat. She moves with quiet confidence, her heels clicking softly against the floor. No one, not even the cop, seems to notice the shift in the room, except for him. He watches her with the same dismissive gaze, his mind still locked in the assumption that she's just another person here to disrupt the order of the court. He doesn't see the change, doesn't recognize the gravity of the moment. His eyes flicker over her as she walks past, his jaw tightening in irritation. But it's nothing more than a passing inconvenience, another voice to ignore, another face to scoff at. His gaze stays cold, his judgment already cast. She takes her place at the prosecutor's table, her hand resting lightly on the documents in front of her. She doesn't look at him. She doesn't need to. She's focused as always on the case at hand. The officer's jeers fall on deaf ears, dismissed as unimportant noise. He continues with his quiet mockery, his eyes narrowing as he tries to make sense of the calm that surrounds her. He doesn't understand it. How could he? A woman like her, walking into a courtroom, as if she belongs here. It rattles him. She begins speaking, her voice measured and clear, not a hint of hesitation. Her words are sharp, deliberate, but without a single ounce of aggression. The cop glances at her again, his brow furrowing as he hears the authority in her voice, the way she commands attention with nothing more than the cadence of her speech. Still, he's not sure. He can't quite place it. He shifts in his seat, fighting the growing discomfort that gnaws at him. There's something different about the way she stands, the way she speaks. It unsettles him, but he's too proud to acknowledge it. He turns away, hoping the unease will subside, but it doesn't. His irritation flares again, as he watches her interact with the witness, her calm presence in stark contrast to his own boiling frustration. She doesn't flinch when he sneers at her. She doesn't even blink when he shifts in his seat, trying to make her uncomfortable. She remains unbothered, focused only on the facts, on the law. The tension between them grows, though it's silent for now. She doesn't let him in, doesn't let his judgment touch her. Every word she speaks, every gesture she makes, is a lesson he's not ready to learn. He still doesn't know who she is, doesn't understand what she's capable of. But in this moment, with every measured response and every steady glance, she's already winning. The cop doesn't know it yet, but the silence he's trying to break, the mockery he's using to distract himself, is about to break him instead. The break comes quickly, a brief interlude in the otherwise tense atmosphere. The judge stands. A few people begin shuffling out of their seats, and a hum of quiet chatter fills the room. The prosecutor gathers her papers, her movements smooth and deliberate, the weight of the case pressing down on her shoulders, but never showing in her expression. She's calm, always focused, but in the corner of her eye, she catches movement. The cop, he's making his way toward her, his gait slow and measured, his eyes narrowing as if he's preparing for something. She doesn't acknowledge him immediately, continuing to adjust the stack of papers in front of her, though she feels his presence drawing closer. She knows what's coming. She's been here before, had these kinds of encounters, with people who think their authority comes from their uniform, from their status, from the color of their skin. He stops in front of her, a deliberate distance between them, and for the first time since he entered the room, she looks up, her gaze meets his, but she says nothing. She doesn't have to. His words come without invitation. "You really think you belong here?" he says, his voice dripping with condescension. He crosses his arms, a smug smirk creeping onto his face. "You sure you can handle this? I mean, no offense, but you don't look like you're used to being in a courtroom. Don't know if you're cut out for this kind of thing." He chuckles to himself, the sound low and mocking. The air between them grows heavier, with each word, thick with judgment. His eyes sweep over her, dissecting, evaluating, deciding, just like he's done 1,000 times before with people who looked like her. "You're just another case, right?" he continues, voice dropping to a near whisper, as if he's telling her a secret. No need to get all high and mighty about it. These cases don't change, no matter who's sitting in that chair. He's speaking to her like she's a child, like she's in over her head. His eyes don't see a prosecutor, a woman who's worked tirelessly for every ounce of respect she's earned. No, in his eyes, she's nothing but an interruption, a face to dismiss, a token who doesn't belong in the room with the real players. She listens, her expression unreadable. He's so caught up in his own arrogance, so wrapped up in his need to belittle her, that he doesn't see the danger in underestimating her. He doesn't see what's coming. "I'll be honest with you," he says, leaning in just a little, as if confiding in a friend. "I don't see how you're going to win this. It's just a waste of time." She waits for him to finish, her eyes locked on his, unwavering. And when he's done, when the last word hangs in the air like a challenge, she stands, slowly, purposefully. Her voice is calm, but carries the weight of 1,000 silent battles won. "You don't know anything about me," she says, her tone low, controlled. "But I'm about to show you exactly why you should have never underestimated me." The words hang there, a promise. And in that moment, he knows nothing, not a single thing, about what's about to unfold. The courtroom hums as the break comes to a quiet close. The cop stands across the room, his eyes never leaving her, a glint of arrogance in his gaze. His words were meant to belittle her, to remind her of her place, but there's something simmering beneath his surface, something deeper than his casual dismissal. He believes he's already won. He believes his position, his uniform, his authority is enough to keep her in check. As the proceedings resume, he approaches her again, this time with a more deliberate step, more confidence in his stance. She remains seated, flipping through her notes, as though she has all the time in the world. He stands over her now, blocking her view of the evidence in front of her, the air between them thick with unspoken tension. "You know," he begins, his voice low but sharp, "it's a real shame that someone like you is here. I mean no offense, but you don't exactly seem cut out for this." He pauses, watching her, savoring the discomfort he imagines she's feeling. "I bet you're only here because of all that diversity stuff, right? Affirmative action? I mean, come on. What other reason could there be?" The words land like a slap. There's no hiding the venom in his tone now, the condescension dripping from every syllable. He's confident, too confident. His gaze locks onto hers, daring her to react, to fight back, to show weakness, but she doesn't. She just looks at him, her face expressionless, as if he hasn't just thrown an accusation at her. His smirk grows wider, as though he's finally found the chink in her armor. He stands there for a moment, waiting for her to stutter, to make an excuse, to explain herself. He watches as she remains still, as calm as ever. "You know," he continues, leaning in just a little closer, "people like you, they always get by on handouts. They don't really earn their place. They just take it." The words are meant to rattle her, but they don't. Not even close. She's heard them before, countless times, from people who couldn't see beyond the surface. But now, in this moment, they're nothing more than empty noise, and she isn't listening. Her silence is her strength. She doesn't flinch, doesn't break, doesn't rise to the bait. She just sits there, meeting his gaze with quiet defiance, her posture unwavering. She lets him talk, lets him believe he's gotten under her skin. But what he doesn't know, what he can't know, is that she's already won. And when she finally speaks, her voice is quiet, steady, and sharper than he expects. "You have no idea who you're talking to," she says, her eyes locking with his, cold and unblinking. "But you will soon enough." The cop steps back, his smirk faltering. He doesn't understand what's coming, doesn't know that his own ignorance has just set the stage for his undoing. He thinks he's in control. He's wrong, dead wrong. The courtroom falls into a hushed silence as the prosecutor rises from her seat. Every eye in the room turns toward her, but there's no hesitation in her steps. She moves with a quiet authority, her back straight, shoulders squared, a sense of purpose in every movement. The cop watches her from across the room, his arms folded, his smirk still lingering on his lips, though it doesn't quite reach his eyes anymore. He's been underestimating her from the start. She's just another woman in a courtroom to him. Someone he can belittle, someone whose very presence seems like an inconvenience. And yet as she approaches the stand, there's something different in the way she carries herself. The air around her feels charged, Like every word she speaks is a carefully measured step toward something bigger. He doesn't know yet, doesn't understand that every word she's about to say will undo everything he's tried to build in this room. He doesn't know that the calm, steady demeanor she's projecting is more powerful than any defense he could muster. But he starts to feel it, just a little, as her voice fills the room. I would like to remind the court, she begins, her tone even and unwavering, that justice is not about assumption, it is not about bias, it is about facts. The words ring out, sharp and clear, cutting through the tension. She doesn't need to shout to command attention. Her voice is low, controlled, but it carries a weight that's hard to ignore. The cop shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his earlier arrogance faltering. He's beginning to feel something shift in the room, something he can't quite place, but it unsettles him all the same. He watches her, his gaze narrowing, his mind working in overdrive. This is no longer about the case, it's about her. His own judgment, the words he'd thrown at her without thinking, are starting to feel like the mistake he can't take back. He's crossing the line now, and the unease in his gut is only growing. The prosecutor's words continue to fill the space, steady and sure. She doesn't flinch, doesn't stutter. Every sentence is carefully crafted, designed to expose the cracks in the facade he's built around himself. He can feel the weight of it, a shift in the balance of power that he can't quite explain. For the first time, he's aware of his own discomfort, the uncomfortable realization that he might be on the wrong side of this room. Her calm is a mirror to his aggression, and it exposes him for what he truly is. The more she speaks, the more his discomfort deepens, until it becomes a palpable thing in the air. It's almost as if the room itself is leaning in, waiting for him to finally see what she's been showing him all along. But he can't yet process it. She doesn't need to say it outright. Her presence, her calm, her unwavering focus, she's already shown him that he's no longer in control. And when she looks at him for the briefest moment, her eyes steady, there's nothing left for him to do but swallow his pride and brace for what's coming next. The room grows quieter, if that's even possible. The air thickens with anticipation as the prosecutor steps up to the stand. Her movements purposeful, deliberate. She doesn't look at the cop. She doesn't need to. Every eye in the courtroom is already on her, and she knows it. She knows what's at stake, and she knows how to take control without saying a word. She places her hand on the podium, straightening her papers, her voice never wavering as she addresses the court. For the record, my name is Emily Carter. She begins, her voice cutting through the silence. I'm the prosecuting attorney for this case. I hold a degree from Harvard Law School, and I've been practicing law for over a decade. I've handled cases of this magnitude, and many others. She pauses, looking across the room, letting the weight of her words settle. It's all by the book, professional, precise, but in those few sentences she's already made a statement, not just about who she is, but about everything the cop thought he knew about her. The cop's expression flickers, just for a moment, a crack in his mask of superiority. His eyes dart to her, then away, but not fast enough. He recognizes her name. The flicker in his gaze turns to something deeper, something like doubt, like regret, but it's too late. He shifts in his seat, adjusting his uniform as if he can somehow pull his thoughts together, but it's no use. The prosecutor continues, her words steady and measured, each sentence dismantling the illusion he's so carefully built around her. She doesn't need to raise her voice to expose the truth. She does it with every word, every calm movement. You've made an assumption about me, officer, she says, her eyes locking onto his for the briefest moment. Her words are soft, but they carry the weight of 1,000 silent judgments. You assumed I didn't belong here. You assumed I was unqualified, based on nothing more than the color of my skin, and the way I present myself. There's a slight pause, the tension in the room thickening. The cop's jaw tightens. But he doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. His discomfort is all too visible now, his earlier mockery and arrogance melting into something closer to shame. The prosecutor continues without missing a beat. But let me make this clear. I'm here to do my job. I'm not here to prove myself to you. She stands taller now, the confidence in her posture undeniable. You, on the other hand, need to prove something to this court, and I will make sure you do. The room is electric with the shift in power. The realization dawning on everyone in the room that the cop's attempt to diminish her has only magnified her strength. He still hasn't fully processed what's happening, still doesn't understand that the truth she's about to expose will strip him of everything he thought he knew about her. By the time she finishes, The cop is no longer the one in control, and the courtroom knows it. The prosecutor has already won, and her control over the room is absolute. There is no turning back now. The truth has been set in motion, and it will be his undoing. The atmosphere in the courtroom has shifted dramatically. The cop, once brimming with cocky confidence, now fidgets in his seat, his shoulders tense. His earlier bravado has evaporated, replaced by a growing unease. His eyes dart to the prosecutor, then quickly away. He's uncomfortable now, unsettled by the calmness that radiates from her. She doesn't rush, doesn't flinch. She simply stands poised and composed, every word that falls from her lips an exercise in precision and control. The officer, though, doesn't seem to know what to do with this change. His arrogance, once a shield, now feels like a mask slipping off, revealing something raw, something fragile beneath. He clears his throat, his hand tightening on the edge of his chair, as though holding on to something familiar, something he can control. But the reality is, he can't control this, not anymore. As the prosecutor begins to question the witness, his earlier comments, those racially charged remarks, those assumptions about her place in this courtroom, linger in the air like a shadow. They are no longer just whispers. They've been exposed for what they are, a reflection of his deep-seated biases, his need to diminish and belittle in order to maintain a sense of power. The cop watches her every move now, but his discomfort is impossible to hide. The prosecutor's steady gaze doesn't waver, and she continues with the questioning, her tone unwavering, her words sharp. Each question is another thread pulled from the fabric of his defense. She isn't just building a case anymore. She's exposing the ugliness that lurks just beneath the surface, and he knows it. He tries to cover his tracks, to pretend he hasn't been watching her through the lens of his prejudice. His posture stiffens, and he leans forward, trying to reclaim some of the authority he's lost. "That's not what I meant," he mutters under his breath, almost too quiet to hear, as if the room couldn't have possibly caught the venom he'd sprayed earlier. But the prosecutor doesn't miss it. She doesn't let his attempt at backpedaling distract her. "You've made your assumptions clear, officer," she says, her voice smooth, every syllable like ice cutting through his defenses. "And now the facts are speaking for themselves." The cop shifts again, his eyes darting toward the bench, looking for someone, anyone, to affirm his position. But there's nothing. There's no sympathy in the courtroom, no nod of agreement. The judge's eyes are on him, but there's no acknowledgement. The room has already made its decision. The realization sinks in. The cop is cornered, exposed. He can't take back the words he's spoken. He can't undo the assumptions he's made. His actions, his casual racism, have been laid bare, and the prosecutor has made it clear. This trial is no longer about the case. It's about the kind of person he is. And in the end, it will be his own bias that brings him down. For the first time, he feels it, the weight of the truth. It's not just her presence that's a threat. It's the truth she carries with her. The prosecutor stands tall, her presence dominating the space. Each word she speaks is a calculated strike, breaking down the officer's defense, layer by layer. She doesn't rush. There's no need to. She's methodical, steady, as if she's been preparing for this moment her entire life. And in a way she has. Every word she says exposes the truth he's tried so desperately to hide, his arrogance now turning into something far less certain. "Officer, you've made it clear that you've passed judgment on me based on nothing more than how I look, how I sound, and what I represent to you," she begins, her voice calm but filled with weight. "But your actions, your assumptions, go deeper than that. This case isn't about the trial at hand anymore. It's about what you've been allowed to get away with for far too long." Her words slice through the tension, sharp and unyielding. She doesn't raise her voice, doesn't shout. She doesn't need to. She's already got his attention. "You thrive in a system that's built on biases, on people like you who use their position to enforce unfair stereotypes, to treat individuals like me as less than, simply because we don't fit your narrow view of what matters." She continues, her gaze locked onto him. She's not speaking to the court anymore. She's speaking directly to him. "And you've done it so well, haven't you? You've used your authority to silence people like me, to make us feel small, to make us feel like we don't belong. But you're forgetting something important, officer." He shifts, uncomfortably. His eyes flicker to the judge, to the defense, anywhere but at her. But she doesn't break her stare. "You've forgotten that the truth doesn't bend to your assumptions. It doesn't shrink because you want it to." She pauses, allowing the weight of her words to sink in. You've been given the power to enforce laws, but you've used that power to enforce ignorance. And in doing so you've become a product of a broken system, a system that rewards your prejudice. The cop's face hardens, his jaw clenching as if he's trying to hold back the tide of shame that threatens to drown him. He's still too proud to admit it, to say the words that are forming in his throat. The prosecutor's calm and direct tone has shattered his perception of control, but he's not ready to admit that she's right, not in front of all these people. His arrogance is cracking, but his pride refuses to let it crumble fully. Your actions have consequences, officer, she says softly, but with a finality that rings in the air. And you've spent your life thinking you could get away with them, but you're not above the law, not anymore. He looks at her now, the mask of authority faltering, his earlier confidence shattered, but there's no apology in his eyes, no acknowledgement of the damage he's caused. He's too proud to admit it, but the cracks are there, unmistakable. And as she steps away, the room shifts, the tension hanging in the air like smoke. The cop's world, built on assumptions and bias, is unraveling. It's no longer a matter of winning the case. The prosecutor has already won something much bigger, the truth. The officer's hands are clenched on the edge of the table, his knuckles white. As he struggles to maintain his composure, he can feel the room shifting, feel the eyes of every person in the courtroom, subtly turning away from him. The authority he once carried now slipping through his fingers, his earlier bravado, the smirks, the dismissive words, everything that gave him power in this space, has begun to crumble. The prosecutor's words have planted a seed, and now that seed is sprouting into something much bigger than he can control. He stands quickly, too quickly, as though the movement will restore some of his shaken confidence. His voice cracks the stillness, but it's no longer the commanding tone he once held. It's defensive, desperate, objection. He calls out, his words cutting through the silence like a knife, but there's no force behind them now, no power. It's a feeble attempt to reassert his control. The judge glances up, unamused, before gesturing for him to continue, but it's already clear, he's lost the room. The cop tries to gather his thoughts, tries to steady his shaking hands, but it's too late. The damage has been done. The room is no longer with him. He can feel the shift in the air, a subtle but undeniable change. People are whispering now, their conversations low but charged with the energy of realization. They're not speaking to each other about the case anymore. They're speaking about him, about his bias, his behavior, his failure to see the person standing in front of him. The whispers grow louder, and the cop can't escape them. The prosecutor stands still, a calm figure amidst the chaos she's ignited. Her expression hasn't changed. Her eyes remain steady, unwavering. She knows what she's done, and she knows the battle is shifting. She hasn't even broken a sweat, not yet, and already the power has moved to her side. The cop tries to recover, but his voice trembles now. "I'm just doing my job," he says, the words hollow, as if he's trying to convince himself more than anyone else. "I'm just here to enforce the law." But the room knows better, the prosecutor knows better, and the officer's attempt to pull himself together only exposes him further. His pride is crumbling, piece by piece. He had thought this would be another day, another routine case. He had thought his position and his uniform would shield him from scrutiny, would give him the power to dismiss people like her. But now, as the room shifts around him, he realizes the truth. He's not untouchable, not anymore. The tension thickens in the air, and he can feel it pressing down on him, tightening like a vice. He tries to gather himself, but it's useless. The storm has already gathered, and it's moving toward him faster than he can outrun it. The courtroom has turned, and there's no going back. The tension in the courtroom is suffocating. The cop's face is flushed now, his earlier confidence replaced by something darker, more volatile. His attempts to regain control have failed, and with each passing moment, he can feel the ground beneath him shifting. He shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his fingers tapping erratically on the edge of the desk. Every part of him wants to lash out, to do something, anything, to regain his sense of power. But the prosecutor's calm presence has already undone so much of that. His eyes flick to her, and for the first time, he sees something different. She's not just some woman trying to make her case. She's standing there, poised and unwavering, a force that is breaking him down with every word, every movement. And in that moment, he feels something he hasn't felt in years, vulnerability. His jaw clenches. He's been exposed, but he's not ready to accept it. Not yet. With a sharp exhale, the cop rises to his feet, a mixture of frustration and disbelief in his eyes. His voice cuts through the tension, low but laced with venom. "You don't get it, do you?" He sneers. "People like you don't belong in places like this. You think you can change things? You think you can beat the system?" He pauses, expecting her to flinch, to react to his words. But she doesn't. She just watches him, her eyes steady and full of something he can't name. The prosecutor stands tall, her posture unyielding. She doesn't take the bait. Instead, she counters with a calmness that makes his words sound hollow. "You're right," she says, her voice cutting through his accusations like a knife. "People like me have been told we don't belong in places like this. But we do anyway, because we fight for it. We fight for what's right, not because the system has given us permission, but because we've earned it, every step of the way." His expression falters, just for a moment, and she can see it. She knows the crack she's created in his armor is only widening, but she's not finished yet. "Let me ask you something, officer," she continues, her words slow but deliberate. "Have you ever had to fight to be seen, to be heard? Have you ever had your very existence questioned, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are?" She takes a step forward, her gaze unflinching. "I have, and I'm standing here today, not because of a handout, not because of some special treatment. I'm here because I've worked harder than you can possibly imagine to get to this point." She lets the silence hang in the air for a moment, before adding, "But you've never had to work for your position. You've been allowed to thrive in a system that favors you, that excuses your actions because of the color of your skin. And that, officer, is the problem. You've been given everything on a silver platter, and you don't even see it." The cop's face changes, his arrogance slips, his pride cracking, leaving only the rawness of the truth she's just exposed. For the first time, he questions everything he's ever known, everything he's ever believed about his place in the world. The room is still. No one moves. His world has been shattered by the one thing he didn't expect: the truth. The officer stands there, his shoulders slumped, his uniform suddenly feeling heavier than it ever has. His once proud stance has crumbled under the weight of the prosecutor's words, and the realization of his own failings, his ignorance, his prejudice, hangs around him like a cloud. He's been exposed in front of everyone, not just for his actions but for the system he represents. His mouth opens, but the words don't come easily. There's a desperation in his eyes, the same desperation that comes with knowing there's no easy way out, no apology that can undo the damage. His voice is weak, shaking as he tries to reclaim some semblance of dignity. "I didn't mean," he starts, but his words falter. "I didn't mean to." He stops himself, frustration bubbling beneath the surface as he tries to formulate anything, that might make this better. But the room has already turned. The people in it, the ones who had silently watched him dismiss the prosecutor, now see him for what he truly is. His reputation, once solid in the eyes of those who shared his beliefs, is now forever tainted. It won't matter how many apologies he makes. The truth has been laid bare, and there's no covering it up. The prosecutor watches him, her gaze unwavering. She's won. She knows it. The case is sealed, and the truth has come out in full force. But this victory isn't about the case. It's about something bigger, something the officer can't yet grasp. "You don't get to apologize now," she says, her voice cutting through his fragile words. "You don't get to take back the harm you've caused. You don't get to pretend that this was just a mistake, just a lapse in judgment." The officer opens his mouth again, but she cuts him off, her voice steady, unyielding. "What you did was a reflection of a system that has allowed you to thrive on ignorance. You weren't just a bad cop, you were part of a broken system that needs to change." Her words hang in the air, thick and heavy, like a sentence he knows he can't escape. She's not offering him sympathy. She's not letting him off the hook. Instead, she's holding up the mirror to him, to his actions, to his life, and letting him see what he's truly been contributing to. The officer doesn't know what to say. He knows she's right, but the realization is too much, too sharp. She doesn't wait for him to respond. She's already turned her focus back to the case, the courtroom, the bigger picture. The damage has been done. The officer has already been exposed. The truth can't be ignored, and neither can the systemic issues that allowed his behavior to go unchecked. And as the prosecutor walks away, leaving him standing there, humiliated, defeated. The weight of everything she said lingers in the room. There's no going back for him now. He's been part of a system that has failed, and he can't unsee it. The courtroom is quieter now, the final arguments having been made, the weight of the trial settling heavily over everything. The officer, now a mere shadow of the man he once believed himself to be, sits in his seat, eyes cast downward, his earlier bravado nothing but a memory. The prosecutor stands at the front, her hands resting on the table, eyes scanning the room, but her mind is elsewhere. The room is full of noise now, the rustling of papers, the shuffle of feet as people prepare to leave. But for her, it all feels distant. Her thoughts are still circling the events of the past days, the sharpness of the confrontation, the steady burn of the fight for justice that had consumed her. It hasn't been just about this one case, she realizes. It never was. This fight, this battle for truth, has always been bigger than any courtroom, any individual. She has been fighting for something more: respect, equality, a system that sees people for who they truly are, not through the lens of prejudice and bias. And though the case may be over, the fight isn't. Not yet. She exhales slowly, the weight of it all pressing down on her. She knows this isn't the end. The officer may have been exposed today, but the system that allowed his actions to continue is still in place. The injustice isn't gone. It's still out there, still waiting to find new ways to manifest itself, and that knowledge stings, the reality of it, clawing at her chest. But there's also something else, a quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes from knowing she's done something right, that the truth has been spoken, no matter how uncomfortable it made people feel, no matter how many people tried to ignore it. In that moment, when the officer's arrogance cracked, when the truth was finally revealed, she had won. It wasn't about the conviction. It wasn't even about the case. It was about making sure that what happened in that room would never be forgotten, that the shift in the room would echo far beyond those walls. Her gaze drifts to the officer, who still hasn't moved, who still doesn't understand the magnitude of what has just happened. She knows he'll never get it. Not fully. He will never truly see the damage he's done, the lives he's affected with his prejudices, but she doesn't need him to understand. He's just one part of the much larger system, and today, in this space, in this trial, she had cracked that system wide open. As she gathers her things and turns to leave, a quiet resolve settles in her bones. This fight will never be over, but as long as she's standing, as long as she's able, she will keep fighting, because every small victory, every inch gained, is a step closer to something bigger, and that, she knows, is worth the cost. The courtroom is nearly empty now, the hustle and bustle of the proceedings fading into the past, but the weight of what happened lingers in the air. The officer, once full of arrogant certainty, now sits in his office, the door closed, his face a mask of unease. His uniform, once a symbol of authority, feels suffocating now. He runs his hands through his hair, his mind racing, struggling to process what he's just been through. He thought he knew who he was, an enforcer of the law, a man of power and respect. He had spent years believing that his uniform granted him the right to judge others, to look down on those who didn't fit the mold he had so carefully constructed for them. His pride had been unshakable, his actions justified by the badge he wore, the power he wielded. But now, with everything that had been exposed, with the truth laid bare in front of him, he realizes how wrong he was. He had never considered the people he trampled on, the lives he dismissed with a glance, the humanity he so easily ignored. And now, the world is holding him accountable. His career, the thing he had worked his whole life for, is hanging by a thread. His reputation, once solid, is in ruins. He can feel it slipping away, the consequences of his actions now undeniable. The prosecutor's words echo in his mind. "You've been part of a broken system." She had called him out, but it wasn't just about him. It was about everything he had been complicit in. It was about the system that had allowed him to thrive, while others were silenced. He had never asked the right questions, never cared to look beyond his own narrow view of the world. He stands up from his desk, walking over to the window, staring out at the city beyond. His reflection in the glass is a reminder of the man he thought he was, the man who had used his authority to dismiss, to belittle, to control. The truth that had been revealed to him was like a mirror he couldn't look away from. His actions had been destructive, but the lesson he learned is one that goes far beyond his own mistakes. The prosecutor didn't just dismantle his beliefs. She had shattered something much larger, the foundation of a system that allowed men like him to act with impunity. And though he may never fully understand the depth of the harm he caused, the weight of the lesson he's learned will stay with him forever. The case is closed, but the lesson is far from over. The damage he caused won't disappear overnight, and neither will the work that remains to be done. As he stares out into the distance, he understands now that this moment wasn't just about his downfall. It was about something bigger. It was about a shift, a reckoning that needed to happen, and though it came too late for him, the world around him has already begun to change. And for everyone who witnessed it, for those who had been watching, the lesson isn't just for him, it's for all of them. The fight for justice, for equality, for truth, it's only just beginning. If this story resonated with you, don't stay silent, share it. Let's continue the conversation about justice, equality, and the power of standing up against prejudice. Subscribe for more stories that challenge assumptions and inspire change. Your voice matters.